Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Death by, where contestants will earn reps for their arguments for a chance to stand on top of the podium pedestal. I am your host, Lauren Kalil. Whoever I decide has the best argument through the final round will earn 30 seconds to talk about a topic of their choosing. Before we get into the episode, we want to thank our sponsor of today, Born Primitive. If you didn't look at your calendar, we have Black Friday right around the corner, and today through Sunday, you are able to get your hands on those Savage Ones, clothing of your choice, all for a discounted code. Site-wide, they are going to be having 30% off, and their clearance items are up to 70% off. Then on Cyber Monday, they will continue their 30% off of their entire site, and then you will also have a 60% off their Cyber Monday Vault. We have the links in our bio to get your hands on those deals, and we also will have that QR code at the top of your screen that you can scan throughout the show. On today's episode, we have the Chief Executive Officer at HWPO, Matt O'Keefe, affiliate owner and CrossFit analyst, Chase Ingraham. We can get with the programming. He came prepared. And the founder and coach of Underdogs Athletics, Justin Cotler. Man, Chase was so prepared today. He's getting more creative as the episodes go by. Here we go, gentlemen. Say hi. Topic number one. After the announcement of the new updates to the 2024 CrossFit Games season, we had some questions, as we always do. One being whether they would continue to use the worldwide ranking system. Recently, Adrian Bosman was on the Barbell Spin YouTube channel, and he did in fact confirm that it would be used for the 2024 season. So, do we love it? Do we hate it? What are our thoughts? Chase, because you came prepared with a lovely sign to brag about yourself, we'll let you start the topic.
All right. Well, I would love to know in which form and fashion the worldwide ranking system will be used. It's good to see it back. Obviously, they need some time to vet it, to experiment with it. A one-off wouldn't look so good on paper if they used it once and then scrapped it, because what the worldwide system rank means eventually in the end, which is to determine the number of qualifying spots allocated for the CrossFit Games at semifinals. We know it's going to be 40-40 for the men and women, but how many qualifying spots is each of the 7 semifinals going to get? My question is how is the worldwide ranking system going to be used when it determines the strength of field? We had that last year using the top 100 of men and women across the world to divvy up the number of spots going to the games. I'm in the camp of, instead of looking back on 2 years of the worldwide ranks, have that system in place, but use the strength of field of the field taking the actual test at semifinals. Get rid of those that aren't actually competing in person on teams or age groups. So my question is, I'd like to see it back, but I'm curious of how it's going to be implemented.
Good questions. 4 points for Chase. Matt O'Keefe, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I love this. Huge fan of a worldwide ranking system. And again, some of the same questions that Chase is mentioning, but I think that it's progress, right? We've learned from last year. I think, very micro, but making it more interactive, real time. I think how the season and or people's results contribute to it will only improve. It just gives us an opportunity for so many things down the line and in the future. I challenge people to name a sport that don't have a worldwide ranking system. It's pivotal. It's essential to the long-term success and definition of how somebody competes through a season, as we know, is constantly being looked at and improved upon or tweaked on. So it's essential. It's necessary. I love it. I think it needs to get better, but I would say that everybody involved knows that and is working towards that. So the way it worked last year, I think it was just sort of a stake in the ground, and we got to see sort of how it was a very remedial approach, and I know that that'll be a more diverse approach, a more complex approach forward. But this is essential for the evolution of the sport, and I absolutely love it.
3 points for Matt O'Keefe. Justin Cotler, you're up.
I love The worldwide ranking system, I just hate the way that it's formatted right now. I think it needs to be extended to competitions like Rogue and Wadapalooza and
Totally.
Dubai and etc. We need to figure out how to bring into play some of these, bigger competitions where we've got phenomenal fields that compete, not just, the open and quarters and semifinals and the games. Ultimately, because the truth of the matter you've seen in the last 2 years what Tia wasn't able to compete, Ricky Garrard wasn't able to compete, and you're seeing people who um, really miss out on a ton of points because they can't compete at the semifinals or the games, but then will come back and finish second at Rogue or fifth at Rogue. And so we've got to figure out a way to bring in some of these bigger competitions. We also need to figure out, like, what does it mean ultimately? What are we using it for other than obviously allocating spots at the games? But I think in the long run, I think it needs to mean more than that. I think ultimately, if someone is injured for semifinals and they're one of the top 5 in the world, do we then look and say, hey, this person, obviously, look what they did at Rogue and Wadapalooza, et cetera. They missed this competition, but they're obviously one of the best in the world. They should probably go to the games. Like, how do we figure these things out? So I think that needs to be utilized in a much better way. And obviously, I know it's only the second year, but I think we need to be forward thinking and hopefully come up with a little bit better way of formatting it.
5 points for Justin Cotler. It was a good segue into our next question. But before we get to that, some of what I've read or heard from others online is that right now, the current worldwide ranking system, it will be mathematically impossible for Africa to earn other spots as their potential field gets deeper in years to come. Could there be room to have changes or improvements with a lot of the footwork we've already done with this system, or would we need a completely different one?
Well, maybe I don't understand where you're going with that, but the Africa piece, I mean, this is like sounds harsh, but aren't we trying to get the best 40 athletes on the floor every year? And I think this helps define that. It doesn't exclude them, it helps them understand what the definition of is to be a part of that conversation. Yeah, you want to create opportunities for developmental, you know, geographical locations, but we've done this for whatever, 12, 14 years at this point, and that spots going to those areas of the world have proven to not be competitive on the world stage. So I think it really helps with a lot of that, which is like, hey, what's the bar? Where do we need to be in order to be competitive on a global scale? Because it's, taking somebody from a region like the East or West or Australia is a really big one to have a conversation around. Is, are there enough people that we're giving spots to in a region that has, great performances from those that get to the big stage? Yeah, I don't. It sounds harsh and unsympathetic to people that are competing in those regions, but and people can make analogies about the Olympic Games and like people get there that don't belong there because they're in they get citizenship in some random country, but honestly, like I think at this point we need to just be really focused on performance and getting the best people on the floor on an annual basis, and then the developmental phase can come over time, and setting the bar. This helps set the bar. Did I answer the question at all, or completely off?
No, you answered the question, but I suppose like the bigger focus of the question was what happens if Africa does reach that competitive limit where they are deserving of an additional spot?
Great. They hit the criteria. Let's build it. It's like, that's my point. It's just, you're like building criteria. Like any Olympic sport has, is like there's a minimum standard to be involved in, right? So
No one's getting snubbed right now.
yeah, right.
Let's just be honest about that. I would argue on Oki's part is people are given a gift as far as what they're allowed to do or competitively at the CrossFit Games right now. That's just the state of it. If it grows, there's no reason that the worldwide ranking system can't evolve over time to maybe accommodate as these lower tiered regions get up to speed. So that's the idea there. This isn't set in stone. They're trying it. It's been 1 year. It could be as they grow, maybe they will have to make adjustments. Maybe the idea, and I love this idea that you guys had was, what's up, bro? That's my son. Is worldwide
We're off the
ranking,
rails. We're off the
including-
rails now.
Yeah, including. They're home from Thanksgiving. I mean, God.
Come on.
One thing is including these bigger off-season competitions, but not exclusive to, say, Rogue, Dubai, Wadapalooza. Those could be tier 1 school events. Then you can have tier 2, which is your French throwdowns, your Italian ones. There's the strength and depth, or that could be almost considered a tier 1. But like, you can tier these things to where they can get points. And as the worldwide ranking improves, so can the entire system, and maybe they do get additional spots. But we're not there yet. So I think bringing that to the forefront is something we need to even think about right now, as I think it's just a waste of people's time.
Okay.
Oh, it's literally arithmetic at that point. Like, you
Right?
talk about tiering events,
Yeah.
like that is done by, I mean, God, I know, throw up. I'm mentioning golf again, but it honestly, like,
but not just golf, tennis as well. Like, yeah,
but like, you take a Corn Ferry event and there's contributive points towards the overall, world ranking system and FedEx Cup standings. It's like, dude, if the event is not strong, then it gets less points. It's not really that hard, honestly. We just like we need to pay attention to how we're different, but not recreate and invent things that are already in place that have made mistakes over years and tweaked and turned. I mean, there's a lot of shit in place already that we can just take and put in place here.
Agreed.
Okay, well, that leads us perfectly into our second round. Dave Castro, he recently mentioned on his weekend review the concept of having a triple crown, which would include the CrossFit Games, the Rogue Invitational, and Wadapalooza. If you haven't listened to his current episode, some of the details with this concept are the top 20 CrossFit Games athletes would be able to collect points from all 3 of these majors, and a champion in turn would be crowned. The way it works is the lowest amount of points would win. Is this something that you guys think athletes would commit to? And if so, does this add more excitement to a bigger off season potentially, obviously with the inclusion of the CrossFit Games? Justin Cotler, we'll start with you this round.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken about it before on this show with the idea of creating a season where we have a bunch of these big events in season, and we go from a quote unquote like Super Bowl event to now creating, like what he said, a Triple Crown or a Grand Slam, where ultimately, you look at the way that, golf is set up or the way that tennis is set up. And now you've created a season, with massive events, where athletes can, God forbid, they miss one or something, happens. There's still, more opportunities, to compete at big events. I love the idea of creating a season around a Triple Crown or a Grand Slam. I love the idea of us, again, this is what I think the evolution of the sport eventually will be. I really do. And if you want it at the end of the day where the CrossFit Games is still here, but I do love the idea of, where you've got, the US Open, the French Open, Wimbledon, et cetera. Like, now it's just better for the athletes. And I think ultimately, us moving towards becoming a real professional sport, I would love to see the opportunity, especially in an individual sport. You look at other individual sports, not a team sport where there's the NBA championship or the Super Bowl. Big individual sports have multiple massive events. And right now we're missing that in this sport. And I hope that's the way we go eventually.
And you do think that athletes would sign up for all 3? Because I feel like a lot of the elite athletes right now, for Wadapalooza specifically, they're going the team route. And I don't know if that's just because they want to have fun at that and they don't want to compete individually because they already have during the off season, or like if this was in play, that would change their mind.
I just think that's because the CrossFit Games is the end all be all right now, right? Like if you had 3 or 4 events that were equivalent to what you see as far as the Grand Slams in golf or tennis, like those athletes in those sports, their entire season revolves around those events, like especially the better athletes. So I just think for the longevity of the sport, for the idea that these athletes can really make money, if we want to turn this into a big time sport, I think eventually that's the way we got to go.
Okay, fair. 5 points for Cotler. O'Keefe, what are your thoughts?
Do we all get 2 questions to answer to get more points, or
Yes.
just
No, that didn't give him more points. I just had a follow-up,
minus
Chase.
1 for Chase on that one. Minus 1.
Seriously, interrupting.
Chase is
O'Keefe,
upset because he's not winning
-1.
right now.
Are you done? Are you done, Chase? Or you need more time?
Oh yes, please retread.
Okay,
your,
thank you,
topic
thank you.
about to start.
This is awesome, honestly. Like in the end, this is the start. And Justin put it great. It's a great start to a structure on a season. I want more definition for like what it means to be a professional athlete in CrossFit rather than, people picking their spots. I mean, honestly, think about this. Like, are all the athletes in the CrossFit sport at their best at the CrossFit Games? There are athletes that choose to journey and make money that way or focus on the CrossFit Games and try to shoot their shot there. We level the playing field the more we structure a season, and we create more parity that way. If everybody is training for the same things on a more consistent basis, you have a better story to tell, and you really can then say like everybody's pointed in that same north. We elevating events, better marketing opportunities for brands, athletes, those events. I mean, really just taking what is the best of the competitive space and putting them together for a greater prize. Money talks. Athletes are going to sign up. Come on, all of them are anyway in some way, shape, or form. The elephant in the room is always the rogue situation. Such a big prize and a big moment from an earnings opportunity perspective for these athletes. And you're just linking it and giving it more significance in our system. Honestly, this, is where we start to build off of, quite frankly, and it's and it could be that structure is the season and it's the pinnacle that we create structure around for people to get involved in later. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the top 20 athletes being taken out and put into this like Triple Crown season. Why can't somebody earn their way and just like they would in golf to a major championship, prove their worth? There are some great sports stories about random 1,000th ranked player in the world winning the biggest event in the season. Again, that's not a knock. I mean, we got to start somewhere, but yeah, and this is awesome. I mean, this is something that we've all talked about and heard about for years. It's time to do it. We got to start somewhere with the season. We've talked about it a long time. We need more consistent storytelling. That's how we become a more relevant sport on a larger platform. Let's just get it done. Like Triple Crown, yes, good. Let's see how it goes and let's evolve off of it. Like those 3 events are the best events in the world. That's an easy one. We all know as coaches, training platforms, commentators in the sport, those are the 3 we look to every year. So let's just put them together and get moving.
6 points for Matt O'Keefe. Chase is really going to be upset.
I brought my Chase bravado to that one. You needed to be aggressive.
I liked it.
You did. You were very aggressive, and you brought a lot of hard-hitting points, O'Keefe. That one was packed full.
That's very good.
Chase, what are you going to bring to the table?
The hard-hitting points of the 2 guys that want to professionalize the sport more than anybody. Yes. Nothing but consistent. But I totally agree on that end. The thing that I'm shocked that nobody is talking about is that we want to grow the sport, yet we're so hyper-focused on 3 Triple Crown events that only take place in the United States. Like, what are we talking about right here? Is we need to separate games from the off season. And we've talked about this a lot. And I think, okay, if you want the games to qualify people for a Triple Crown or into a Triple Crown series, great. But the game should not be a part of that Triple Crown series. There needs to be a relationship between the game season and the off season. And this Triple Crown conversation has been going on for almost 5 years since regionals blew up. So this is not a new topic to come out and to be discussed. But I like the fact that it's now being discussed with people like Dave Castro, because then that can grow some legs. What I would like to see is the game season qualify individuals for a off-season Triple Crown event. Say if you make semifinals, you now get your Triple Crown card and you're in the mix. Like O'Keefe said, it expands more people than just the top 20 best in the world at the time. And then you have events like Rogue. Yeah, great. Wadapalooza, even better. 2 US-based competitions. We need to get outside the United States. There are massive events. I can't believe no one has said Dubai yet. Dubai being in the mix of something like that. We need to get more European influence in the Triple Crown as far as events and earning opportunities and athletes. And so I would like to see game season qualify you for Triple Crown season. And at the end of the day, with the Triple Crown, maybe it's the top 3 Triple Crown at the end of the leaderboard for men and women. They get an automatic bid to the CrossFit Games next year. And now we have a nice tie between the game season and the off season. And then the off season can matter just as much as across the game season when you tie it to something like that.
Chase, you literally, like, that was going to be my follow-up question was, what about everyone else outside of the US?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
what is that?
I don't know what that is.
Whoa. Hey. Listen, I don't need a follow-up
Sean
question.
Woodland
You have a
producing.
you make a good point.
I by the way, can I just chime in? Like, I think Chase, I like that stuff all makes a
Chase,
lot
you're
of
going to get
sense,
7 points for that.
but we need to start somewhere. Like, I think we're missing that. Like, we've been stuck in mud on season for 5 years. It's like, I totally get it. And yeah, there's tons of emerging markets or established markets. Great, throw one in Europe. It's just we need the people that are like, we need these events that are these flagpole events to start the process to get into what you're talking
Well,
about.
that's why I threw out Dubai as a starting point, right? Rogue, Dubai, Wadapalooza, October, December, January.
Yeah.
And
Do
Rogue
you
is a
think that-
predominantly European-dominated athlete field to begin with. So I feel like Rogue should be a part of that, not the CrossFit Games.
And so we're looking at these events. I don't know that this is necessary, but I'm just curious on each of your thoughts. Do you think that to be part of the Triple Crown that you would in fact need to be a licensed CrossFit event? Obviously, I know that Rogue and some of these aren't, but like, should that tie into the conversation, and would that be a good business move for CrossFit?
Yeah, I mean, they should all. I mean, if you're asking me, they should license anything that smells, looks, feels, wags like a dog. Like, I mean, it should all be under that. Like, they should want more, and they do. I believe that. I mean, there's 3,000 events on Competition Corner a year that are CrossFit style training events. Like, we need to bring them in. Like, here. I mean, Justin knows this. Like, the number one reason people train HWPO, underdogs, any of us, is because they want to, reach a goal or compete, right? So, and it's why they leave, is because they either like have obtained that or like they don't have something to focus on. Well, they're everywhere. Like, let's just, we need our, platform that is, the due north, the organizational platform around this to aggregate those things and let people know where they can go to do these things. And then we can evolve. We can start to bring them in and give them more significance over time. Like that's a no-brainer to license, call them CrossFit. Like, we need to democratize that. We need to get that out.
Can I push back on one thing that Chase
Push
said?
away.
Yeah, it's just
Go for it.
I brought it up
Justin.
before. I'm just not a big fan of the CrossFit season and then the off season where we have massive events and now we have no off season. Like, I just think eventually we've got to try to meld the two somehow so that we are creating some type of off season for our best, for our athletes, so that they have longevity in the sport and we're not just smashing them 24/7 for 365, right? Like, and I don't disagree. I think there's some poignant things in what he says, but I'm of the belief that we've got to try to figure out how to do some of those things together, because if we just never have an off season, this sport is fucking hard. Like, it's really hard. It's brutal on people's bodies. It's brutal on their minds. I would argue it's the hardest sport to train for in the world. I mean, so, I know that, the volume that these athletes have to do to attain greatness year after year after year after year if there's just no off season, we're setting ourselves up for our best athletes having these really short shelf lives. And I just think that that's not great for the sport, and so I'm not sure how to do it. There are guys, that are smarter than me that can figure it out. But at the end of the day, I just feel like we've got to find a way to meld these things and for us to have a dedicated off season for these athletes, which right now we don't necessarily have because of the way that the season and the off season are formatted.
Yeah.
Well, what if
Chase,
some of these competitions
Do you not
had
think that a break from August to October, and then let's be real, there's a break from February through April for these
there's
guys?
no break. There's no break because if you want to go win $280,000 at Rogue, you better get your ass going. It's like literally,
Right.
why you're gonna have to peak for that. Like, who wouldn't want to? Yeah, there's probably some people that don't, but I'm telling you right now, like he's spot on. Like we have to consider how to create longevity too. Like all these, like listen, we're aging out a large group of superstars in our sport, major platforms that are almost impossible to rebuild. We got to think about how we can create longevity so that those guys can either stay or that next crop, which is an even harder growth factor, but that they'll be, we create a longer runway for those guys to compete. I get it. Like this is an age old debate about, CrossFit athletes being babied and not. Dude, this shit is hard. And, the when I go put myself on the floor, I want to be my best. And most of those guys are like that. And they're going to train their face off to do that. And you can't do that 5 years in a row. And some of them have, and you're seeing the results of that broken. So
Well, what if these
we
competitions had restrictions on the amount of volume that they could program?
I keep hearing that, Lauren, and then at every event they just keep trying to outdo themselves. So yes, I understand
Well,
what
and
you're
that's
saying, but
why
this
this
is
is
no
the perfect
evidence of that
opportunity
happening.
for the PFAA to come in and start working with competitions on these restrictions, right?
1,000%. I totally agree with that. I just, I haven't seen it happen yet. So until it happens and until that's actually true, we keep hearing, oh yeah, we're gonna take the athlete's health into consideration. We're gonna decrease this. Or I haven't seen it yet.
name a sport that doesn't have an off season.
There's none.
Chase is thinking.
Now take any sport you'd even put in the same stratosphere as what we do and name any that don't take their foot off the throttle at a point. Like it is essential. I mean, I can think like we've trained with rowers and triathletes, like they have periods of time of absolutely zero training, then this block that they do this insane amount of zone 2 training, and then they get into this intensity training, right? Like in focus training around the event. There isn't like you can't expect these guys to be, different than, what is proven, as a way to approach a sport from, successfully. Like it's, science. Like you can't do this to people like just say, hey, let's go. You're going for the next 10 years straight, and you're just going to compete your face off if you want to make hay. By the way, we have the data. Like people have done that. Like, hey, was Rich at his best and Matt at his best and T at his best all the time at the CrossFit Games? I don't know. I will say Matt, from my experience, was one that actually took an off season. There's a lot of arguments that created the best performance in the history of the sport. I don't know. Maybe there's other factors involved in that, but man, we gotta I want to see performance and I want to see races, and I want to see all these guys we're talking about going head to head and eating each other's throats out at their best. And I honestly believe that there are athletes that are top notch in the world that go to the CrossFit Games and choose not to be their best because they make money throughout the year.
I think that's definitely true. I think listen, I think it's something that's, we continue to debate. It's a really hard subject to ultimately figure out, but it's one that we need to continue to talk about because I look at it from that coach's perspective of like, we take a look at the season for our athletes and we're like, this makes sense to do, but you know what? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense because ultimately the way it's set up right now, like, we've got to think about your health. We've got to think about travel. We've got to think about this. We got to think, and I would just like to see this season set up that, takes a little bit more of that into consideration.
Okay. Well, we could go down so many other rabbit holes, but we'll do that another day.
Chase got quiet. He's not happy with Justin and I.
Oh no, you guys make great points, really, especially the off-season stuff and taking care of the athletes. And I agree with you 100%, Justin. Is that I think without question, training for the games or as far as the CrossFit as a sport, is the hardest of all in the world.
Yep.
Like, I don't even think it's close.
Totally.
Moving on now to topic number 3. Morning Chalk Up, one of the longest standing CrossFit newsletter publications, was recently bought out by Barbend and Pillar4 Media, mostly known for other verticals in the fitness space, such as weightlifting and powerlifting. What does this purchase specifically mean for CrossFit in the fitness space as a whole? And just what are some of your opening thoughts when you saw this purchase? Matt O'Keefe, as a businessman, we are going to start with you.
Awesome. Leveling up and evolution creates stability around media platforms in our space. No matter where you sit on Morning Chalk Up from your experience and, what platform you choose to engage, the fact that somebody, a larger media organization said this has value and we want to build off of it is amazing for us in the space and the sport. Some people might look at this as owning like what would look publicly as, maybe opposing media platforms with different approaches. And, does that create, a singular voice? I'm not that worried about that. There's so many media examples in the world where, there are aggregations involved in their opposing platforms from either a political position or, how they cover sport or whatnot. But there's nothing that I can say or see here that would say anything but, a business within our space that's getting purchased to be elevated is amazing for all of us that are involved, that rely on media and storytelling. It's another platform that, has stability to tell more stories long-term for our space.
3 points for Matt O'Keefe. Chase, we'll let you go next.
I get
there you are.
Sorry, I had to mute my on. At risk of losing this whole thing, I don't really care. Like, this doesn't affect me. This doesn't interest me. I hope it does great things and continues to build a platform through the new Morning Chalk Up owned by Barbend, or how they're going to name it. But from my perspective, this is not a needle mover for me. So I'll just
I'm gonna dig into
pulled
that.
Me. I love this.
Take my zero. I'm fine with it.
I want to dig into that, Chase. Why doesn't this move the needle for you? Why doesn't this interest you?
Just it's on my own personal interests. Is like, I would follow. I'm a RX supporter of the Morning Chalk Up because they're a partner in the space, just like I am a Patreon supporter of pretty much every media personality in here, because I support media in the CrossFit space. But as far as like things that I pay attention, are drawn to, or I think that interest me, a lot of the content through that are either things I already know or I'm not that interested in. And someone coming in to change something in a way that I don't really see affecting my personal interest is of no interest to me to begin with, unless they, start promoting Orange Theory and F45 over CrossFit. But other than that, this is, like I said, I'm happy to take my zero with no opinion or care of this whole.
You don't see like a leveling up, an amplification opportunity, like a stabilizing, opportunity for something that's obviously a trusted source for a lot of people in our space.
The Morning Chalk Up being a trusted source.
There's a lot of people that read it and follow it on a daily basis. I mean, I quite frankly, I'm not saying that that's my news source. I'm just saying there's hundreds of thousands of people that are engaged in that for how they get their news.
I'm not discrediting other people's engagement. No.
Yeah, but even more so, if you question like its validity, isn't that an opportunity for it to get more valid at this point, that the actual reputable news agency, outfit business is going to, invest in and then, bring it forward? I mean, there's, hey, you can critique any platform in this space.
Sure.
And find, faults in them. The Morning Chalk Up has contributed to growth in our space. Fact, because it's telling stories about athletes, CrossFit. Yeah, and you can argue like it's created controversy at times, for sure, right? But quite frankly, I mean, it's a really trusted platform by a lot of people in our space, and it's only seemingly going to get better and more stable and more directed. Like, I don't know. I don't know why that wouldn't interest you.
I would say
We're
the news
listening.
source that has actively tried to spread disinformation about the games team exclusively and maybe lack of affiliate support over the years does not interest me. So I would hope, here's my take. I would love for Barbend and Pillar4 to actually bring a bit more legitimacy and trust
Cool.
with its news. How about that?
Well,
But that's kind
I'll
of part of my point. That's part of my point there is like if you're taking, I mean, I would assume because, and I know as you do, like everybody involved with all those things, and Barbend had been a more direct news source on that side for a long time, right? Like, but this is a leveling up at that point, isn't it? Like it's well, and again, I don't know what the sort of, strategy is from, whomever's bought it. Is it like keep doing what you're doing and doubling down on the chaos? Then you're right, right? But I mean, knowing what I know about it at this point, that's not the case. It's only an opportunity for this thing to get better and more pointed. And
I mean, I hope it does.
Yeah.
And you, like I said, you made great points about it. You have more interest in understanding the system. I'm coming from a place of my own personal experience, both individually and professionally. And yeah,
we just don't want to like here, like that's completely valid. And Justin, by the way, when we're done, you can talk. So
Well, thanks. I didn't know.
He's sipping water on the side.
I'm not just listening at this point.
we just, it's hard to build what is that, and
right, and I'm not trying to tear it down. I'm just saying is like I am of the opinion to have not a major stance on one way or the other. That's what I'm saying.
No, and you are open to that opinion, and that's what I love about this show is that we can have these debates, and then we can all go have a coffee together. But my only follow-up question to you, Chase, and then we will get to you, Justin Cotler, is do some of those like thoughts, feelings, maybe concerns have to do with said former owner, though?
I don't know the inner workings of Morning Chalk Up enough to make any type of ownership, leadership, accusation, or intent, right? And that's the line I'm trying to walk is like, I have my own personal experience of what I have seen come out of the Morning Chalk Up. They've done a lot of positive, but they also have focused on a lot of negative. They're called the TMZ of CrossFit for a reason. And I don't think that is necessarily an endorsing title to be given, right? And so stirring up controversy for controversy's sake has been a part of that, as much as telling great stories in our community, right? We've had a bit of both, a little yin and yang, so to speak. But I'm sitting in a position of some of the damage I've seen come out of that has been much more, I would say, detrimental than some of the positive things. So if Barbend comes in and Pillar4 come in and they take what is already a worldwide platform for CrossFit news and entertainment and elevate that, that would be fantastic to see. And maybe my engagement will be more than it has been with Morning Chalk Up. But I'm just in a position where it's like, until I see something different come out of there or something get better, I don't really have a full-on care or say on this topic, even though I clearly have a care or say about it.
Okay, I feel like we've interrogated Chase enough.
I try to talk for like 30 seconds.
We weren't going to let you talk for only 30 seconds. I will give you one point though, because I appreciate your honesty and answering all of our follow-up questions. We didn't get anywhere, but that's okay.
I was expecting a zero. So.
I think it's the mustache. Like, I don't know what it is today, but like, I feel like attacking. It's the mustache. By the way, everybody who's listening, we're all really good friends here, just so we're clear.
This is why all three of us are on together, because we can do
Yes.
Which makes the show better. Is it's fun banter that we can disagree and agree, and we can still all go out and have fun together. Justin, don't worry, it is your turn now.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You sure?
He tuned
You got
us
any
out.
more
He was
questions
sending
for
Hold on,
emails.
Chase?
hold on. No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a little bit of an interesting perspective on things because I go back with Barbend a ways, back to the guy that started it, David Tao, was a buddy of mine from New York. And then I did some op-ed pieces for Barbend. I guess my question is, Barbend tried to, I feel like CrossFit has always been a little bit, tangential to the stuff that Barbend has tried to do. They've covered it, but they've never really covered it. And they tried to do that once before. If I'm not wrong, when they brought over Brian and Patrick, and that didn't seem to work out. Now I know David, sold it, to Pillar4 and so I'm curious to see what they do. I feel like, this is an interesting opportunity for, Pillar4 Media, obviously to, like we've talked about, I think, kind of level up Morning Chalk Up. I've always had a good relationship with whoever kind of has been in charge at Morning Chalk Up, and now, with Joe, who's the editor there, and, he's done some cool pieces on underdogs and some of our athletes. And, I'm kind of of the belief that it's just good to be, kind of be friends with as many people as possible, especially in the media. But
You're
yeah,
a
no,
smart man,
yeah, of
Justin
course,
Cotler.
but ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm curious to see, whether or not this now means that CrossFit becomes a bigger piece of what Barbend does. Cause I feel like it's never really, been at the forefront of the stuff that they do. And I think it now gives us an opportunity for a bigger media source to reach a wider audience and bring CrossFit to the forefront. So I do see it as being a positive because I think maybe it gets more eyes on CrossFit, and CrossFit now gets more coverage. So I'm curious to see if that's actually the case, with the new ownership there and with their interest in Morning Chalk Up.
We all want more eyes on CrossFit. Can we
Yeah.
agree on that?
Hell yeah, if they do that,
Need
I'm all
more
for it.
Hell yeah.
eyeballs. Yeah.
Justin, I'm going to give you 3 points, and that makes you this episode's champion. Maybe
we
Chase
go
needs to
again.
make a sign for
That's
Justin.
number
now.
5 for me.
I'll make a sign. Yeah,
Is
make
that
the
a
sign as
loser
Chase
sign?
-1. That can be your sign.
Number
Joe.
5, buddy. I'm coming.
There's a
I'm coming for you.
conspiracy. Sean, I need your help here. There's a conspiracy.
I love it. You know what though?
All right,
Here's the
I'll
one
hop in.
thing.
I thought you had it, O'Keefe, and you know why? Because I felt I had the feeling I had a more aggressive, more, I don't want to say heated or angry, but just a more
He was
more
aggressive.
assertive O'Keefe. I really thought she's going to make it a 3-way tie, and I was going to jump in here and be like, you got to give it to O'Keefe. I'm sorry I didn't have the
That makes
opportunity to do
sense.
that, but
Yeah,
I was going to
I'm
do
proud
that,
of you, man.
but
You're a
I
winner
feel
in
like
my
this
book.
week you were really close, Matt. Yeah, it was.
I think it's
you
because
know,
have you been drinking a nitro brew the whole time, O'Keefe? You've been
that's
jazzed
it.
up.
I mean,
I think that's what
just,
you were sipping.
I'm happy to let you all experience victories.
I thought you really
I've
brought it
rid
today.
alongside champions my whole life, in this space, and so I'm proud to ride along you guys too now too,
I
and
thought
support you in your
brought it,
championship
yeah.
runs.
I was impressed with O'Keefe today. I was just a little better. That's all.
I have to admit, you were very good, especially
Okay,
how
Justin.
you challenged Chase.
30 seconds. This is your additional seconds that you didn't get during the show when Chase and O'Keefe were going at it.
Yeah, this is.
Oh, he brought notes.
No. So I'm going completely off topic today.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. So this is purely a appreciation and a 30-second on the soapbox to kiss my wife's ass because of how amazing she is, with all of the stress and stuff that she's had to deal with for the past few weeks, with me being, so you guys have no idea some of the health issues that I've been dealing with. And she has stepped up and taken care of the kids and dealt with my shit. And I just want to say that I love you, and you are the best, you know, the most incredible wife and incredible person that I could ever imagine. And, you know, everyone hears me be like, oh, you're kissing your wife's ass. No, this is honestly like, I'm just in awe of what she's been able to do the last few weeks with me being, you know, really laid up, honestly, almost like in bed for the past few weeks. So at the end of the day, like, I just want to take the time to say that my wife, Ashley, is a fucking rock star, and she deserves all the accolades that I can possibly give her. So.
We would know that knowing you anyway.
Ashley Cotler.
It's got nothing to do with the last 2 weeks.
True story.
That's awesome. Nobody can argue with that.
Yeah.
Well, we love Ashley. We love you, Justin. We're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're all here. And now we have Chase's kids on the show too.
Keith, you missed this?
Oh, look at that.
Oh man,
Adorable.
that turns into an 18-year-old with red hair, and I'm.
That was my color hair when I was a kid.
It's
Right
not
there.
as fun as that.
Oh, so good.
Sorry, Abby, my daughter.
Oh, I love them. I love them. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We had some great conversation per usual. O'Keefe, Justin, Chase's children. Thank you for also being on the end of our show. And thank you to our partners, Born Primitive. Make sure you check out their Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals. We have that nice little, over here, QR code on your screen, link in our description. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you after the holiday break.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Say bye.
Bye.